everybody. Tonight we will go deep into the realm of the unknown and question everything as we search for the truth. We will explore the possibility of countless phenomena within the ultra-spectrum, and together we will learn that it is all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and it is a live stream broadcast. If you have a question, send me a super chat or become a YouTube member. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association. Take a seat, relax, get ready, and welcome to Beyond the TinFoil Hat.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today is Thursday, October 20th, 2022, and I'm Ryan Stacey. I'm your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. Special thanks goes out to all our YouTube members who help keep this program and others free for our experiencers. Thank you. Remember that as a member, you get to ask your questions live here tonight. For all you non-members, you can super chat or send a tip on Rockfin to ask your questions for our guests live. Every little bit helps. All right, at the 2-hour mark, we will have our after chat, so stick around and we will keep the conversation going and chat with everyone in the live chat. C.E.C has requested the night off, so you're stuck with me, only me tonight for the after chat. Sorry, not sorry. All right, so our returning guest for season 4, episode 33 is Gary Voorhis, who may or may not be related to Jason Voorhis. And I'm not sure if I asked him that. But fun fact, this time last year, Gary was on this program, season 3, episode 32, on October 14th, 2021. Almost like clockwork, he's back at the same place and time. So is that a coincidence? I don't know. But I find that fascinating because we don't not very often do we have reoccurring guests on this program, and it's almost like the same time and place. So this is great. So Gary Voorhis is a co-founder of UAPx with a background in mechanical engineering and working as an electronic and RF technician. He was a fire control man and Aegis Computer C.E.C technician in the United States Navy. His responsibilities included operating, maintaining, and repairing the Aegis weapon and non-Aegis sensor systems. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. To test and evaluate experimental upgrades to the Aegis Baseline 6.1 and Cooperative Engagement Systems of C.E.C for short. During this time, the U.S.S. Princeton, he had the task of security and inventory on top secret and classified information and materials, including being trained on the W.A.S.P. military recon U.A.V. for the Pacific Fleet during Operation Enduring Freedom in Operation of Iraqi Freedom. On the week of 14th of November 2004, he was an eyewitness to the U.S.S. and Nimitz tic-tac events. So you can find him on his link tree, Gary Voorhis Jr., which I have right here on the bottom. And so, Gary, put on your tinfoil hat. Welcome back. Good to see you. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me.
No worries. Did I say that right? Is it Aegis? Aegis? How do you
Aegis.
say that? Aegis. Yeah. All right. So we're going to start the show with the icebreaker that C.E.C has provided us. I'll just play a little jingle there, and then we'll get going. All right, so C.E.C, who runs our Experiencers Anonymous group, which is, I believe, next Wednesday, do you feel there's something worth calling out within the study of ufology today? Or can you share what good you see in ufology? Good question.
Well, I see a lot of people really coming together. I see more organizations not settling for waiting for the government. And, I see a lot of movement within the civilian population to go and try to find the truth. So, that's very positive for me. Even within the government, there's even been positive movement too. Whether or not it turns out to be positive, I hope so. But I'm not going to wait. But people like yourself. I mean, I don't personally study these cases, but I find them fascinating. I'm fortunately sitting in a situation where I've seen the objects, but I've never had a one-on-one with any type of off-world being or any type of extraterrestrial or anything like that. So I'm basically just got to stay a skeptical believer until then, and just be courteous until until I know otherwise.
Mhm.
Because why not? It's not going to hurt me to listen.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that too, because every day I'm looking into an account of somebody else's event, and 9 times out of 10 it's usually explainable, but yet the mystery and the mysticism is all there, and there's still that hope because there's that small percentage of some of these things might be these things that we think it might be, but majority of the time, a lot of us are which are needed. Skepticism is needed because we need to make sure that the information we have is verified and it is accurate, because it's so easy for people to be like, an unidentified flying object is alien extraterrestrial. It just means this person who posted it doesn't know what it is, and so this collaboration that you're seeing, I'm seeing that too. A lot more people have maybe stopped competing against each other, if you will, and started realizing that by working together and focusing on the mission, more results are coming, because there was a lot of expectation, and perhaps there still is, of the government providing answers, but it's not guaranteed.
No.
So in your position with UAPx and many other organizations that pursue for the knowledge, you're actually, like you said, you're not waiting. So what exactly is it you're not waiting for? What is it that you?
Well, like yourself, you saw an issue and you went out and chose to try to solve it yourself rather than wait for somebody else to solve it for you. 2004, I saw, a piece of technology that blew my mind. I have no idea where it's from, who has developed it, whether it's on Earth, off Earth, but I wanted to find answers. So when Kevin Day came to me and said, "Hey, you want to start a company?" At first I was like, "What?" I mean, it was a big idea, a little too big for me at the time, and I kind of sat the first year almost out, and then I decided, this is something worthwhile, and I really need to get in there and get some work done, and so that's what I did, and now we're at where we are at now. So, and we got some great things coming on. We just moved the company from Oregon to Florida.
Okay.
We just redid our 501c3. We're an official nonprofit now, so feel free to donate as much as you possibly want to us. Now that we can provide receipts for tax purposes.
That's always good.
Oh, that was a hurdle. I was dealing with a lot of different paperwork, especially being out of state in Oregon, and it was really difficult for me to get all that done while we were still in Oregon. So it went a lot smoother when we moved to Florida. So it got done relatively quickly rather than taking years to get things done.
So, okay, so for those who, I know you're a recurring guest to this program, and I'm quite familiar, but there may be some new listeners, so let's do a recap. What is UAPx? What is your position in that? And then what have you done, I guess, since the last time we spoke within a year from now, or a year ago?
All right, so a year ago, that would have been right after we got back from Skinwalker. So I would have been teasing that at the time.
Yeah.
Well, you've hopefully everybody's seen that episode now. It's season 3, episode 2, where we go out there and get absolutely nothing because the ranch has just got bad luck. It's a horrible place to do research, but too many odd things happen there. But I'm the president of UAPx. UAPx is a company that we started to study UAPs and phenomenon associated with it. Nuts and bolts. We're not really looking to study. We don't study other people's data. We go out and collect our own data, and we analyze it and study it. We've right before, probably about a half a year before I came on here, we were down in California filming our movie, and that's now out on Amazon, Terror in the Sky, if anybody's interested. And then, of course, we were on Skinwalker Ranch. We went down there to try to get some data, which proved to be impossible through power issues with the Osiris and associated issues that you can see in the episode. It should be free on the History Channel app at this point. Oh, I got our store up now. So we got swag, so that keeps the lights on. We partnered with the SCU to help analyze our data from our first expedition. We've been working close with Ron Olsch from U.A.V. He's the one that, when you see that real fancy camera system on the roof, all the way when you're looking on the back side of the roof. And it's also what caught one of the atmospheric ambiguities that we are still studying. So it's a great system, the U.A.V., and we're partnering with him to develop our own private system to run that to do multispectral analysis in one spot rather than having an entire slew of cameras all over the place. Just 3 camera setups doing multispectral analysis. That way they're quick and easy to deploy, or they can be deployed for long term. Because we have plans to do hard sites, hard locations, and do on-site evaluations of places to do future analysis. Basically, we're doing a lot of really, really boring work at this point. We're doing a lot of corporate structuring. We're doing a lot of data analysis. We're doing a lot of the FLIR analysis right now. We've added 3 new scientists to board, and on top of that, Rich Hoffman from the SCU, the head of the SCU, he's also joined UAPx. But we got Dr. Cecilia Levy and Dr. Ben Plasek. I hope I didn't butcher your last name, Ben. But they've also joined the team. They're both PhD physicists. And so, our team of scientists are growing. Our expertise is growing. Things are really going good.
Good. This is great. No, I haven't seen the website in a long time, and I can definitely tell that you've increased and you've added some stuff as well. So advancement is good. It's been a whole year. If that's the thing is, there's different types of groups. There's those who are on social media that do the clickbait and say, hey, look at this, and then get the money, get paid fast. Then there's individuals like yourself and your team that are working behind the scenes to get real answers and some real data. And I want to, I'm always appreciative of that, especially doing that myself. I'm curious to know. So I guess you mentioned Terror in the Sky, and Skinwalker Ranch. So I am behind the Skinwalker Ranch, but I haven't seen your episode yet.
That's perfectly fine. I'm the last person to.
Well, I got to start season 3. We're about to start season 3. We've been super, super busy, but I'm curious to know from your perspective, being behind the camera. So there's that serious nuts and bolts and science stuff that we need that's behind the shadows that a lot of people don't get credit for. So how did you and your team adjust or adapt to that whole entertainment style, but yet still be professional? Well, how was that for you?
We're pretty uncompromising, which makes us difficult to work with, which is why you don't see us in more things.
That's what happened to me. You did one and done.
yeah. And that will be probably the only movie that we put out.
Yeah.
But I know with the episode of Skinwalker Ranch, I got to give it to those guys. They they really control the way that the camera crews are handling everything. It's real fly on the wall. You know, it's like the entire episode. I was never other than, you know, they sit you down for like a regular interview.
Mm-hmm.
And then during that, of course, they're asking you questions. So that's kind of prompted. But while they're doing the filming of us doing like the experiment with the rockets and, you know, trying to collect data and stuff like that, none of that stuff's scripted. They didn't ask me to say anything. They didn't like try to get me to do anything. And I think the only time I was ever asked to actually do something is I was a little too quick on the ball, and I went and snatched up one of the rockets that had landed, and they'd asked me to put it back and then go pick it back up again because they missed it on camera. You know, so I mean, stuff like that. I mean, you can't really fault them for. That's all congruity. You know, they need to have.
They want to get the action shot, but you reacted
exactly.
before they did too. And it's important to note that too, because that's a lot. Like with there's skeptics, but then there's like critics of the skeptics too.
Yeah.
So just because it's on TV, it's very easy for people to rip that apart. So even though I didn't see the episode, I was still I still had read and seen, you know, some of the chatter and stuff like that on every episode of Skinwalker Ranch, because many people have opinions. So the fact that you said that it's not scripted is very important to know, that you have that flexibility, because there are often times where we're force fed information.
I've had TV shows I've been on that were less than optimal, and then after I see the editing, I'm like, what the?
Yeah. So I've had one experience on television, and the conditions were very clear that they had to keep in, according to legend or allegedly, or it's been theorized, like buffers.
Yeah.
But like what they wanted was, it's not so according to legend, this ghost was at this house. What they wanted for a soundbite was, this ghost is real, this ghost is at this house, or this alien is this and this, because it's entertaining.
Yeah. You don't know how many times they've tried to get me to say, I think it's aliens, or, you know, it's like.
And we can't fault them for that, because that's the business. They want it to be entertaining because the people are watching it. But the challenge is, how do you take raw, boring data that's important and get the attention? So you have to entertain them somehow.
Yeah, I think there's enough background information and lore to interject into a documentary that you can keep people interested. You know, it's like, you know, the feedback we got from our movie is that they really enjoyed watching us work, but they didn't really particularly enjoy a lot of the rest of it, you know. And so taking that into account, so people like to see people do live science. I doubt they want to see how we do our data crunching, but going on the expedition, it was exciting, you know. I mean, that was, you know, we were out there, we were learning, you know. We unfortunately had to learn a lot of hard lessons during that time, and but we're much better for it. You know, we know what works, what doesn't. I mean, we will never have another roof full of equipment like that, because none of that stuff was, well, other than the FLIR cameras and the UFO DAP, and then the cosmic watch that we were using for radiation detection. That were the only three things that we got useful data off. All the rest of that stuff up there was just fluff. So ended up not being much use for anything.
Well, not used to us, but like, you know, it could be useful for something depending on what we're measuring, and that's the challenging, is how do you get accurate data? So you're putting the effort in, your team, you know, you're doing the measurements, you're doing the science, I guess. Mm-hmm. In terms of trying to quantify or capture some sort of data to prove what? Or are you validating and regulating? Are you more so on the search for answers to solve a question? Or are you more so looking at what everyone else is looking at and providing an honest opinion? Or like, what is the mission?
Well, I hate looking at other people's stuff because I'm not a video expert. Hell, you could show me a deep fake and I'd be like, man, that's amazing. I've never seen anything more real in my life. Mm-hmm. You could fool me because I'm not an expert, you know? Mm-hmm. So I just kind of politely will watch things that people send me, but I'm like, you know, some of them are just, to me, obvious fakes. And then other ones, I'm just like, I don't know what this is at all, you know? But we're just looking for the hard science. We're looking for a way for us to be able to monitor the skies 24 hours a day to catch one of these physical objects that I've seen, that a lot of people have seen, that there's accounts throughout all of history, everything from Ezekiel's wheel to, everything else sounds, the Indian texts all over the place talk about flying machines everywhere. It's like there were no flying machines back then. What the hell were they talking about? I mean, they had to have seen something flying. What was it? And, we think that there's really that physical aspect is what we're studying. The same thing that's got the military all concerned now for flight safety risks. They wouldn't be concerned if there was nothing there. There wouldn't be a congressional meeting if there was nothing to it. I wouldn't have 4 PhD physicists on staff wanting to research it if it was nothing there worth studying. So
you make a couple good points there. Is that there's evidence that something is there, and we're waiting for any government to acknowledge or confirm what has or what may be there, because we want to know. I think the underlying issues is we just want to know we're safe. We just want to know that it's not a threat.
Yeah, I tell you what, that you just triggered something in me about the safe, because when we first started, and especially when we got the core team together, I had to have a real serious conversation with my guys. I go, look, to be dead honest, the best thing we could ever do is not find anything.
And that means you're doing your job. That means
then they're all like, what? No, we want to find something. I go, no, as soon as we actually find something, we're going to have 2 problems: the government, and we actually found something. And that's when it starts to get scary, because then, what could be is for everybody. And then, once we find that bullet that see, look, this has been confirmed by 83 scientists across the world. We're peer reviewed. This is real. Once we get to that point, that's when it gets scary, because then we got to figure out who they are, what they want here, what their narrative is, and
the concerning part about that is not knowing whether or not the government has control or is aware of it, because there's a lot of logic there that the government knows that a lot of us are paying attention and we're watching, and if they do something in plain day, we're going to capture it, we're going to report it, we're going to speak about it, we're going to do it. So if there was any intelligence behind their decisions, they would fly at higher altitudes, or they wouldn't be so obvious in doing that. So then you get all these random things that are happening, which could be drones too, because people can fly those in recreational, and you never know. There's not, those are kind of things that could happen. But then, if you do capture something that's anomalous and can't be explained, is the government aware of that? And if the government is aware of that, and then you just let them know that you're also aware of that, how does that change things? And if they didn't know about it, and then you just let them know that you know about it, does that make you an ally, or is there concern there? Is there are you all of a sudden a problem because you've caught on to something which they thought they were doing properly?
Yeah.
And the concerns I always have is I just want to make sure that the government knows it exists. You don't have to tell me what it is, just that it's contained and it's controlled, and we don't have to worry about it. The fact that it's out there and it's flying and doing all these other things, blah, 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 and you don't know what it is, and you can't contain it, you can't control it, that's scary.
I think that's what worries them the most right now, is because, I would just really like to know exactly how much they have, because I have a feeling that they only know that it is actually a thing, and that they have all of this data that they've collected on these objects, but they still don't actually know what they are. I don't really go into the real world deep recesses that we've got a crashed craft and all that stuff, because there's no possible way for me ever to uncover that type of stuff. But we're talking about the surface military, what they've collected, what they know as because it seems like there's kind of like 3 different sections that are all scattered within different sections with different people doing different things, knowing different things. So when you just say the government, well, what part of the government? The the president and that elected officials, that's one section of the government that doesn't know shit that are starting to see shit now. Then you've got the military complex, which is built up of multiple branches and multiple divisions, multiple people doing multiple different things. So there could be department and department that handles this stuff that nobody ever knows about. And then you've got the alphabet agencies. That's a whole nother section of the government. So when you say the government, that's such a big statement. And I would love,
and you also have to stick within your parameters of your country, because your government is not the same as mine.
Yep.
The government is different for me.
Yeah, that's right. You're in Canada, so yeah, so for us, our government's so fractured. It's so many different moving parts. I don't know about Canadian government. All I hear is, things about truckers and stuff.
Well, yeah, we did make the news. We did a thing, and it definitely went all over the place. Well, I mean, for the purpose of the show and context, I mean, Canada. Let's talk about Canada. I mean, we have UFOs too. We have our Canadian government has declassified thousands and thousands of documents back in 1994, and they transferred them from the Department of National Research Council to the Library of Archives in Canada, and everybody can view those. Everyone can look at them. They've minted 5 coins to date of UFO events. Nice. the new one they just minted, the Yukon one. I actually purchased that, and then I decided to go on eBay and get all of them to have the collection.
I'm gonna have to look that up, because I'm gonna start a collection of like actual UAP finalia. Because if you can, I don't know if you can see this, but
a little bit, little blur in between depending on where you are. But yeah, okay. What's that? What are we looking at?
All right, there we go.
There we go.
All right, if you see it, it's a baseball card, but it's a physics card. And this is a signed Kevin Knuth, physicist, baseball card. Okay. He actually has his own baseball card through a company called Heavy. They kind of do all kinds of different cards for different genres of things. That's cool. Everything from like Back to the Future to.
I've seen some people in the UFO industry get some action figures made of them too. I thought that was kind of cool.
Give me a second. I'm going to reset this camera. Yeah, it's hung up like that sometimes.
So with the minting coins, okay, for me, so what I've done is I've purchased the coins recently because I'm going to actually work on some articles to talk about that, because it's let's get into disclosure and confirmation, because like if our government is minting coins, meaning it's part of our heritage, it's part of it's a memorable moment. That is a significant tell, right? So, and not only did they do it once, they've done it 5 times so far in 5 different events.
What were the events that they ended up minting coins over that were so significant? I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not real familiar with.
So there's Falcon Lake, Shag Harbor, Clairview, Yukon, and the Montreal event in 1990. So the point that I'm trying to get at is the difference in governments. Our government is open to talk about the possibility, and they're minting coins and saying it does exist. But the other thing is that our government used to be a part of your government, and then we've separated, and then we continue to work with each other. But there's this agreement called a SERVIS, or Communication to Intelligence. I can't remember. I can never remember the acronym. But anyways, essentially what we're supposed to do on the Canadian side is if there's any reports of UFO from our pilots or aircraft or anything like that, we intercept, we do a report, and then we transfer that to NORAD and Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado in the United States, and then they take over. So here we are, we're kind of doing the work, and we're kind of open and we're transparent about the idea of it, but yet we rely on the United States to give us the final answer. So what that kind of tells me is that, perhaps we're covering that kind of secret as well in terms of from a Canadian perspective, because if you also look at how we turn to the United States for assistance in any of the wars, we've used your equipment in the past. We've gotten a lot of resource from America in terms of helping us with a lot of things. So I think Canada is aware of the truth and is not obligated to protect the truth, because it's not their government that's concealing it. And then and with that, what I'm trying to suggest is perhaps
not many people know that all of Cheyenne Mountain's actually owned by Canada.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There is a connection. There is a link. And either Canada's not involved, or Canada has to be silent, or perhaps Canada is storing it.
Well, the funny thing is it's FOIA exempt because of that.
Yeah. Right? Because you can't ask for something that you don't have access to because you're not a Canadian citizen. Yep. But I could, if an American were to all of a sudden follow leads that lead to Canada, then I could take it over. I have many leads from Canada that lead to the States that I need taken over in America. But that with this international borders, that's where we get stuck. And that is a perfect plan, because collectively, we don't have access to all information. We only have access to information within our governments.
Yeah, and I guess just the government talk is it's a big circle. I mean, even with FOIA requests, you end up hitting more walls than you get answers. I mean, every once in a while you strike gold, but even the gold comes back as blackened out gold.
Fool's gold. You never know. Yeah, something. So, all right, let's get into the why. All right. So there's how. There's many interpretations. We understand that the government may have the answers, may not have the answers, may tell us something. I think October 31st, you're supposed to get another report or something. I heard.
Yeah, I know it's coming up soon.
Yeah, really soon. Do you think that's going to have any info, or is that just going to be like, hey, we looked into everything like we said we would, and we don't have any answers for you. Carry on. Let's move on. We're safe.
I think they're going to do it the same way they did it last time, where the public one is basically some sound bites, and the private one is where they actually discuss things.
Right.
Knowing full well that anything that's classified, is never going to see the light of day until it's declassified by a higher authority, and that's where people are hopeful that some of this stuff's going to get declassified. But if it outlines any type of capability issues with us not being able to protect our borders, or that it is or isn't us, they can deny it's us all day long, but they want to keep that window open because they don't want other governments to think that, well, is it them? Mm-hmm. They like that. They want people to be nervous that it might be them. So
even if it's another country, we still need to know that it's another country and to be aware of that. Because if it's a threat from outer space or outside of this place, that is a global threat. That is a global concern. But if it's just an adversary in another country, well then, let's trust our countries to be on top of that and counter that because they're aware of it. Okay, so with all that in mind, we know that that's the situation. You have your non-for-profit organization. You're not waiting for the government to give you these results, even though this is happening in real time. So what is your drive? What is your goal? Like, why are you doing that?
Well, to be dead honest, I just want to make this into a foundational science that, if a physicist wants to do his final doctoral thesis on the study of UAP, that there's an avenue for somebody to do that it's not a scoffed at thing. It's a real thing. It's a real study, because do I expect to find answers within my lifetime? As much as everybody else is hopeful in us, I don't. It's too complicated, and it's just, they're not as often as we see them. That is just such a fraction of time to actually collect data, until we can get a situation where we can get repeatable data without a doubt. It's just going to continuously just be us looking. So, and I think as soon as we find that one spectrum of light, that one frequency, that one something where we can repeatedly take data on these objects, either attract them or are able to actually see them, because there could be a situation where they're all over the damn place, but we can't see them.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be some type of, optical camouflage or something far more advanced than we even know. It could literally just be warping space-time around the entire vehicle and we can't see them. But yet, if we do a multispectral analysis of that same spot, then all of a sudden we can see them. It's just like the same thing with our fighter jets. All of a sudden they get an upgrade. I was listening to Commander Graves at the SCU conference, and the one thing that he said that really keyed on to me is that the planes that had the upgraded radars could see these objects, but the old ones couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be all over the damn place, and we just can't see them. So that's really where we're harping on. We're looking at the frequency differences between the old radars and the new radars, and seeing what is the actual difference between these things, and what should we be looking at.
And that's helpful. And when on the civilian side of things, once you obtain this data and you have it, not being associated with the government, what do you do with it? Where's it go?
Well, we continue to do our research, because through our nuts and bolts research, it then has legs. Once we prove to the government without a shadow of a doubt this is real, well, then people like yourself, you're going to have company, because if they're real, that means they could be taking people. They could be abducting people. They could be encounters. So then at that point, then you're going to actually have real officials looking into these things, real documentation. I'm not saying that your documentation is not real, but I'm talking about official stuff that stays forever. Yeah. Not just sits in somebody's attic because they worked on it for 30 years, have great data, but because nobody believes them, it just sits in a box in an attic, and then they die of old age. And
I'm currently in an attic right now. I feel that. I got documents like you're describing behind me.
So that's what I'm saying.
But yeah, one day.
But
I guess that's an upgrade from.
If you were an official office, you would have more resources. If you're heading up a task force to investigate people that say they were, you could actually go in and tell whether these people did have mental like some type of mental handicap, or they're had a traumatic event that caused these things. You can weed out the people that are traumatized because of this, and not the people that are not traumatized, or that are already traumatized and then think they have stuff. Because I honestly believe it goes hand in hand.
It does, and that's the crux of my research. Is trying to prove that it's all connected. It either all exists or
I don't envy you.
It's a tough job, trust me. So there's a lot that goes into that, because there's a lot of secrecy for a lot of legitimate reasons. Even if you are using a service rifle or service weapon, that stuff sometimes is classified, because you don't want the enemy to know what you're using with when you're doing foot patrol, let alone the water or the sky or anywhere else. So there's a lot of things that are kept secret, which means that there's a lot of things the general public doesn't know. And when some of these things just happen to travel and traverse in normal settings, which some people must know, we have to learn as civilians and try to understand what technology does exist that they're not telling us about, and still try to decide and discern whether or not, okay, this is tech that we don't know about, but it's still human in origin. Because even if they say UFOs exist, there's that implication behind it that means extraterrestrial. And does that mean that for you? Exactly. So it's not necessary, but there are a lot of people that are wanting confirmation from the government because they think these UFOs mean ET and aliens.
It could be our own people abducting our own people. And then if they have that kind of advanced technology, there's nothing that says they can't disrupt the transfer of information between neurons in your brain. I mean, the only way you perceive the world around you is through electrical impulses from your exterior to your interior, and then your brain tells you what you're seeing, smelling, tasting. I mean, it's not beyond my thought process to think that eventually you could develop a technology that could either mimic those things or just straight, I abduct you, I stick you in this chamber, now your brain is isolated and I show you whatever the hell I want. Kind of like a deep dive, a true dive VR type of situation where they're literally just tricking your brain into having different sets of inputs rather than the ones coming from your actual body.
Yeah.
I mean,
so many layers. We got to capture one. We need to physically have one, and then you can dissect the shit out of that, and then determine how that associates to everything else. We need to normalize,
or at least prove that they exist, so that we can start getting further funding, more resources. Because imagine if you were doing a case and a lady comes to you or a man comes to you and says, this is what happened to me. I was driving down Route 44 and, I was abducted and then returned an hour later. Well, most likely they have a cell phone. Most likely up to a certain point, that cell phone worked correctly. Well, no data is just as good as some data. So say he's going down 44 and then all of a sudden his phone goes completely off. That can be spoofed, but it's just a little piece in the puzzle that you can use. And if you were an official organization, you could request that through through the court systems to get that information. So you can use this information that they would normally use in like a murder crime.
But they also choose how to release it. So that's the thing. It's like we're able to ask for it, yes, but they know what exists. If it doesn't exist, they don't tell us. But if it does exist, they redact it because they know what it means. So they release some information, but at the same time, they have to fulfill the need. Because if we know something exists and they claim it doesn't exist, then there's that counter, right? And so they do provide details. They just don't give us exactly what we want. So does that mean that they're redacting?
No, that means that you're not doing something in an official capacity.
Correct.
It means that you're a civilian running an investigation. That's what I mean by if a company like mine and associated companies and programs like that they're doing at Harvard and like they're doing in Germany, if these academics and us actually prove that these things are real, well, then they can actually allocate funding to actual investigators to go investigate these things that would actually have the resources to get that information without the impedance that you get. Because if you were being investigated for murder, you're damn sure. And as soon as they get that little piece of paper that says they're investigating you and they have a good reason for it, they have access to your logs, your computer, your whatever they need.
So we need to have ground. So that's why we got to look at it. So if we want to compare UFOs to murder, I mean, the reason why they follow that process is because murder is bad and it's a threat and it's harmful. So the resources are spent and they're exhausted to prevent the crime. So is ufology a crime, or is it normal and natural? And they just don't want to tell us about it because I look at the Canadian perspective is aware of it, but doesn't consider it a threat. And then if it doesn't consider it a threat because it's not a threat, or maybe they know who's responsible for it and knows that the government isn't a threat, but can't say anything. So they're not investing time or money into it because they know it's not worth it because they know the truth. So where's the threat come in?
The threat is the fact that they can't do anything about it.
If that's the truth, but we don't know that. And we just know that they don't have the technology to look into it. They need money to upgrade their equipment, which is justified because you said some of the new aircrafts have updated radar to see these things. So there's a reason for that. That's valid. Yeah. Let's upgrade the tech. But once you upgrade the tech and you do your scans, are you going to find a threat, or are you going to find a new species that's normal and safe?
Well, I mean, look at it this way: are all humans normal and safe?
No.
I mean, just look at it. Just look at the different countries on the earth. You know,
Yeah.
I could say that I could probably 80% with certainty just walk across from one side of the United States to the other, and as long as I keep my head on a swivel and I don't do anything stupid, I most likely can go from one side without dying to the other. Think about all the countries that you cannot say that in.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that in North Korea. You know, I probably couldn't do it across Cuba, and that's a small island. You know, now most likely I'll get arrested and deported in Cuba, but I'd probably be severely beaten. I was probably not treated very well, you know, and especially being an American vet, I would probably be treated even worse. You know, so to just say a new species of safe entities, that's kind of going on a limb to me. That's like saying that every single human is safe. Well, they're safe to these guys because we pose no threat to them. You know, and maybe we do pose a threat to them. Maybe that's why they're interested. You know, maybe once we started using nuclear weapons, that was it. Oh, okay. Well, now these guys pose a threat to themselves and everything around them. You know, I don't know. I don't even begin to even try to fathom it, but I do truly believe that whoever developed the tech for the tic-tacs either was here a long time ago and this is remnant technology, or if they are still here, they're the ones running things, period. Because it's so far beyond what we can do that it's hard for me to believe that this is our tech. But I'm not going to say that it's not, because I just don't know.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to believe that this tech is able to exist in this world without someone human having control of it. You know, there's someone has to take responsibility of that. So if we get into a point where this document on the 31st, you know, all of a sudden they say it exists. This is what everyone's hoping for. That happens. What happens to researchers like you and your team?
Money. Let me put it this way: the government doesn't do anything by themselves.
Right.
You know, if they're on board and they don't want to provide oversight and they want to let us do what we're doing and they want to hire us to go and do this full time, I'm down to work with the government, but I'm not going to do it in a manner which everything we do is classified. You know, I'm not going to go down that road.
I like how you worded that. You said, I'm going to work with the government, not for government.
Yeah.
Right? Been there,
exactly.
Done that. Right? So you're working with them, and then that's quite the difference. Not for them. Okay. Well, then, what is your thought on the Space Force and NASA all of a sudden taking interest too? Because there's not just the government. There's many government agencies that are also acknowledging the possibility, and there seems to be some collaborative interest in finding the answers, but yet they're individual.
Yeah, with NASA, I'm not real impressed with their response. If I believe I heard it right, their budget was $100,000 for the investigation. Unless they're just hiring one person to go through all of their backlogs of alien files, I don't really see where $100,000 is going to provide much. I think one physicist would cost more than that a year.
But that's if they don't know. So the exploration idea and the data to put all that, that's why we put stuff into space to see and go as far as we can go.
I would say if it's a cost to just go through what they already have, then it would be worth it. But if it's literally just they're going to pretend like they have nothing, and this is going to be their investigation, then it's a farce. Actual, Space Force, well, they're kind of fall in that natural category to have to be the one to respond to this type of thing, since if it is going to be extraterrestrial in nature,
that's where it would be, and that's where we need to be protected. Yeah, it makes sense to progress the race in that direction, but is that the truth, or is this just a legitimate opportunity for them to put weapons in space?
I think both. I think honestly that we would need some type of defensive perimeter to be able to protect ourselves, because unfortunately, I don't believe that space is any different than how the world developed. I think it's started dog eat dog, and when it comes down to it, it ends up being that same thing when you look at the macro and the micro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, cells that consume other cells don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes all the way up to, you know, I guarantee that there's a hierarchy even in space. And I think that the only thing that they would really respect is those that can protect themselves. Like here it is really here. Like, you know, here in the United States, you know, we have an illusion of freedom that can be taken away at any time or given away like we are right now. You know, yeah, when it comes down to it, you can only keep the freedom that you can protect yourself.
And I kind of look at the risk analysis, you know, for me, when I look at the idea of any government being in space, you know, even if all governments are in space, it's easier to target Earth in many different locations when the weapons are there. When you're on the ground in your
But do you
respective
seriously
countries,
believe that Russia and the United States don't already have weapons in space?
and that's the thing, is we're not aware of it. And why are we not aware of it? Because we don't need to know. We don't need to panic. Like, there's many different reasons why we're not informed. We want to be informed because there's a lack of trust too. We don't, you know, we want to trust that the government's got it handled.
As long as they're not nukes, because I mean, unless they're pre-treaty, they might be pre-treaty nukes. But I mean, they did have a nuclear ban treaty that excluded us from putting any type of nuclear weapons into space.
Assuming they follow the rules, but we don't.
True.
Then we go to war, and because the rules aren't being followed anymore, and then there's no rules. So all these things could be very well happening. And if nukes are being used, then we're all euchred in that sense. There's nothing we can. There's not a damn thing we can do. But
if it ends up going to nuclear war, there's going to be no winners in that. You know, I think I don't know whether it was true. I never looked it up, but Einstein had said, you know, if World War III is fought with nukes, then World War IV is going to be fought with sticks and stones, because we're going to knock ourselves back into the Stone Age if we survive.
If we survive, so I think it's like kind of the next best thing. It's kind of a territorial thing, because there was a time where some countries had nukes, others didn't. Now every country, or almost every country, has nukes. So therefore the threat is balanced. So if somebody gets to space, then all of a sudden they have control of the entire world until somebody else gets to space. And then once everybody else gets to space, then what? So it's just a pissing contest.
Always has been.
Always has been. But like, is it to protect us, or is it to protect us from the other people and all these other things that's going wrong? And it should be a collective process. It should be one government. I'm not saying New World Order or anything like that, but I mean one idea, you know, to take care of the whole team, which is the whole human being.
Yeah, I definitely would be on board with a worldwide government rather than the individual government. If there was a way to keep,
it depends on who's in charge of that government.
Yeah,
too.
that's the thing. You know, if there's like some type of, you know, if like the UN, you know, everybody had to join the UN, everybody has representatives, but it's one world government, and then, you know, U.S. is like the equivalent of what a state would be. You know, everybody has their own state. You still carry on business the same way you do, but we're all one world government instead of, you know, a multitude of governments, and everything has to go through the world government. Would be ideal, but I doubt that will ever happen.
It's obtainable if we're able to set aside our differences, in which the reasons why things were created and the borders were established in the first place. And it's easy to measure because we can see the ground, we can see we can see the territory, and mark these borders. Once we get into space, how are we able to determine what section of space is ours versus theirs?
Well, it's going to be just like the oceans. You know, I mean, it's literally who owns the middle of the Atlantic? Nobody. So you know, so basically, you know, every country owns a little bit of coastline, a little bit of water, and then you get into international waters. Well, space is going to be the same way.
Yeah, international
You know,
space.
international space. You know, it'll be just like the land grab when we first came to America, going west, or colonization from Great Britain all over the world.
So
You know,
then it makes it almost impossible for one entity to own the entirety of it.
yeah,
So there's no need to fight for it if it can't be owned or conquered. So that can perhaps suggest a little bit of trust that the need to be in that location might be helpful. But where are they pointing the guns? They pointing them back at us, or are they pointing them
well,
back
as soon as they stop pointing them in, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like I've heard that there's more telescopes pointed at the Earth than there are at the sky in space. So, that's and that's something they've just finally admitted, that there actually is other telescopes up there that are similar to Hubble, and they're just pointed down. They're not pointed out.
There's so much space debris that's up there. Allegedly, I'm surprised we don't see any of it. Like when we look at the moon, I don't.
Yeah, but space is big, man. I mean, there's a lot of debris, but I mean, they wouldn't be able to launch anything up there if there wasn't still space in between all the debris. But yeah, we've launched so much crap up there since the 60s. It's ridiculous. And as for the one world government, I honestly believe it'll never happen until there's an outside threat.
Well, there was an outside threat called the pandemic that we had, and we didn't come together. We didn't follow the rules. We failed that miserably. Real or not real, we did not handle that well.
My biggest thing with that is like, I treated it individually for myself. It's like, so I took the guidelines from the CDC. I looked at it and said, am I at risk for this? And then I followed those guidelines based off of whether it was a risk for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like with my mother, she was, older, but I made sure that she had her vaccination because she was in that risk category, because I was just using the actual medical data. I didn't care what Fauci said. I didn't really give a crap about anything else. I would go talk to my medical professional and get to the brass tacks of it, not the pandemic is what happens when you have politics get involved in science. And unfortunately, when you start mandating people to do things, especially like here in the States, people just don't like it. Because like if they came out and said, look, we got this vaccination, take it or not, how many people still would have taken it? I mean, most people would have taken it. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden they're like cramming it down your throat, like you have to take this or you can't go anywhere or do anything. Mm-hmm. Well, then that immediately, like, I'd rather die. Fuck it. I'm done. I'd rather die. Mm-hmm. Because then it's just like your kid when you tell them you have to go to bed, but they're doing this and they're like falling over, sleeping. I'm fine. No, you're not fine. You see that you're mandatory, have to go to bed. And then of course, what do? Fight it. It's like our nature.
And that was just kind of speaking to your point about how difficult it would be for a one world regulated thought in general, where even though we were all affected by the same threat, we all didn't agree with the direction because we don't trust it.
I stopped watching the news when the pandemic happened. Before that, I still kind of caught the news every once in a while. I still listen to NPR. Now I don't listen to any of it because it was so wildly different from one station to the next that which one was correct. And then you go look at their cited sources and then you go read the actual documents and it's like, that's not what this says. And it drove me nuts.
Well, that's the thing. It's when you're responsible for the welfare of so many people and they look up to you to say something and you don't have control of it. You say nothing or you say something. And I think what was happening is everyone was trying to say what they could say without actually saying, we don't know anything and we can't help you. And if they told the truth in that instance, I don't know if we would panic the same. Maybe we would accept it and be like, all right, let's live our best lives.
No, there was a couple catalysts that just didn't really help. It's like with all those aging folks that died in Italy right off the bat. And, it's like, it was really obvious that our aging community was going to get hit really hard with Corona. And they definitely should have done a lot more testing, a lot more, wait and find out before they went on this grand crusade to limit everybody's freedoms for the better good, because, well, that just doesn't work.
All right, so we're gonna put a pause right here, and then we'll do our commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll change gears here. So if you're listening to the audio only version, head over to youtube.com/Experience and Support Association to see the videos that go with this audio. We have a new commercial set for you tonight. I finally got around to resetting the commercials for next year, but we're doing it a little bit early. So please sit back and enjoy, and we'll see you in about 5 minutes. Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and is really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. Just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Beyond the TinFoil Hat. Have you ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrial, dogman, or any other paracryptid? Head over to our website, www.experienceyoursupport.org, and submit a report. Let the others who have already reported be that example that proves that we are making a difference. And if it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do, and for that, we thank you. All right, and I realized just now that I'm not wearing the tinfoil hat cap tonight. I'm sorry, Rex. I will wear it next episode. It's behind me. I forgot to switch my hats. So yeah. All right, so let's get back into the swing of things, but we're gonna kind of segue from the doom and gloom. And actually, to piggyback off of what I just said here, because it's normally what I say after the commercial break and to do with investigation. So let's tell me how people can get your help. So they want to come to your website and they need you and your team. What is the best way that you want to be approached? What kind of request are you looking for? What is your criteria? Or ideal customer, your idea person.
Well, we don't really do customers. We've kind of got our own agenda on how we're going to approach the science of this. And I mean, if somebody wanted to fully fund an expedition to investigate something, it wouldn't be out of the question. But I'd be honest with you, it's not going to be cheap either. So it's not really a public section kind of thing.
Okay.
I mean, most of the cameras we're looking into, that we have are, like just one UFO system's like 4K. If we were going to set up some type of permanent installation somewhere to do an investigation for someone, or even a long term, it's like we all do this voluntarily. So we've got to factor in costs for cost of living and things like that. So,
which is valid, which is because it's your time and you're putting energy in, and there's a request made. So what kind of request would justify paying any amount of money, or
they'd have to be pretty damn sure we were going to find something. Because I mean, if they're willing to pay the scratch that it takes to do a real scientific investigation, then we would definitely consider it. But I'm going to let you know. I mean, just to go to Catalina, I mean, that was a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that was a production budget too, but that's
And the goal of creating any film or any media is to at least break even or receive.
And we don't even care about breaking even. It would just be the literal cost of us coming out there and doing it. Cost of whatever equipment has to be procured to do that particular type of thing, because all the equipment that we have is spoken for in other locations. So we would probably have to buy equipment specific for that location.
Which is another need why we want the government to take care of it, because the government has the money and they have the equipment, and it's at no cost to us, and we pay taxes. So there's that thing. But I mean, do you think maybe the government just knows that we're doing it anyways, might be taking advantage of us and just hoping we find the answer?
That could be a possibility. That could be the narrative, why they decided to even tease us with these congressional hearings and stuff.
And why release any information at all when we do a freedom of information request? They don't have to give us nothing, especially when they know damn well what we're doing with it. Yeah, they have the choice. We don't know it exists. We're asking if it exists. You don't have to confirm anything.
Well, I mean, we've had a lot of stuff that's either kicked back to us to a different for us to send it to a different branch of the government or different entity, or just literally just tell us that's classified. No.
and there's different confidentiality laws and protecting of information and stuff like that justifies those reasons, and those security measures are in place for legitimate reasons, because we don't want our personal information to get out to the public, because we don't know what's going on. It just seems like this circle to me is just this very human element to it, and yet we're all intrigued and we're all fighting it. I don't think we're fighting for UFOs. I think we're just not trusting our government, and we know our government's involved, and we just want our government to just fess up. It's done. So I'm leading into another question is are you guys limited to UAP, because it's UAP expedition? But what about, the paranormal or abductees or contactees, any subsequent events that happen with these crafts? Do you guys look into that, or just strictly the crafts in the sky?
Strictly the crafts. When you start diluting it, going off into too many tangents, it's not sustainable. Plus, we have more empirical evidence that they do exist than we do of actual abductions and things like that. Not to say that they don't happen. I want to completely empathize with anybody that's had a traumatic experience with these or a happy experience with these. Because honestly, if I was taken out of my house against my will and brought up in a spaceship, I mean, it'd be one thing if they approached me and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come for a ride." That'd be a different story than just waking up to. I mean, some of these stories are, I mean, honestly, terrify me. Where children are taken, or parents are taken, or I mean, what happens if that parent was taken and there's a baby sitting in the other room?
Yeah.
I mean, that shit terrifies me. So, we don't mess with any of that at all. We just mess with the tangible that we have enough empirical evidence to go and search for.
You're focused and you're isolated on your study, which is good.
Yeah. Which our study will lend legs to studies like yourself. The one thing you guys got going for you is that a lot of people say the same thing. Like I'm reading a book right now called The Messengers, which I'm pretty sure probably everybody that you're in your audience is familiar with. It's an intriguing book where people basically report seeing a lot of other things besides what's actually happening or what they perceive to be happening. And that's just the thing, is that once we can get beyond the point of people just perceiving things are happening, and you can actually get to the brass tacks and the meat of if abductions are actually happening, then you got something there. And so you're basically doing the same thing we did, but the only difference is ours is a little farther along. Ours has tangible resources. Ours has government backing through the means of them actually saying it exists. So.
And because you're further along, ideally, because this is UAPx it's not where you started with too. I think this goes far back to SkyHub and things like that too. Like
we didn't have anything to do with SkyHub other than just supporting them in what they were doing.
Okay.
We didn't have any deals or media deals and stuff with them, but they were doing a good thing, and they were trying to make it accessible for everybody to get some type of monitoring system. But so it's hard to dance around this without trying to insult anybody, because
it's challenging. And the thing is, and it's good, it's needed. We need to have experts in fields. So with what I'm doing, to add some context here, is I'm acknowledging that all of these things happen. The challenge is determining whether or not they're associated with each other. So yes, you were abducted, and yes, you were, but was it extraterrestrial? Okay, and even if it was extraterrestrial, is this craft one of the crafts that the government is hiding? Like there's a lot of things that still need to that can be implied and associated. But what I'm trying to do is recategorize these events to get groups of data to see how they're all parallel together, to get that human or that true reading of what could be happening, because it could be a combination of all of these conspiracy theories or these things, because you can add remote viewing or anything to that, and psyops. You can add mix and twist all these different types of secret government programs and stuff to really create an environment that is really upsetting and disturbing for an individual. Even outside of the UFO and paranormal communities, we have mental health that is not being handled or properly treated or properly medicated, because in some places, so there's so many things that
I think that's a big difference. Is like in our field, we have pilots and we have high officials talking about it. Like there may be, but not many of them admit being abducted. I'm sure there always is a,
because it's hard to admit to that, because you got credibility, you got a job, you got a family to take care of. There's a lot. Which
is the same reason why people didn't come out about just seeing UAP.
So when the government, now that the government's talking about it, and they do create a safe place and an open space for people to come forward and share it, that's not a bad thing. But do you think people would use it? Think people would trust it?
I think people already are. I think I was a little bit skeptical at first, but then after talking with some people that are still in, they're like, everybody talks about it. it's just like openly talked about. Like where before, yeah, we'd snicker about it, or you always heard that one guy that, saw something. But, before our event in 2004, I wouldn't have believed a damn word that came out of my best friend's mouth about anything that happened. I would just be like, hey, I believe you believe something happened, and I trust you, so something definitely happened, but I don't think it was aliens, guy. Or
And that's
I don't
kind of
think
where
it
I'm
was.
at too. It's like I believe something happened to you. I do, but I don't believe that what you think happened is what happened. So let's look at
and
it.
it's too shaky in those types of cases, and I don't have a way of, like, with just studying UAP, we have a solid foundational science way of studying. Will we ever come up with anything? We may not, but at least that's what we're trying to do. And I think
you're doing a great job doing it, and it's needed. And what I'm trying to emphasize is that there's a lot of people like yourself and our group that are trying to accomplish the same thing, and we're attacking the phenomenon from different angles. And I'm just trying to get an understanding of what we might have in common, because we
have the bad in common. We've got you don't know how many emails a day I get with people telling me they know the truth, and then of course it precedes a 43 page paper on 60 different types of beings and the Galactic Federation and stuff like that. And I'm like, if you know this, where's the proof? If they were trusting enough to tell you, then
they're looking at you, and they establish you as a credible individual, a person that could solve their problem. So they're reaching out to, and the same thing happens to me. Is we're identified as knowledgeable people in the subject that could help them, but at the same time, I
have no idea.
I have no fucking idea either. All I'm doing is trying, and I'm trying to make sense.
I tell you what, once we identify it and we get to the point where we know that they're there and we have a conversation, I will definitely try to validate your 43-page paper.
And there's a lot of people that reach out to that because they just want to know that it's validation and stuff too. So I'll just say that if you ever get anything in your inbox that doesn't meet your criteria or you can't handle, please forward it our way and we'll take care of it.
Well, we only handle what we provide, and we collect. So that's pretty much a lot of what I get. And and like we went over before, doing real science costs money and time, and it's really,
it's not just that, but you got to build your credibility. You can be a smartest guy in the room, but if you're not on television or you're not there, you got to market yourself well in order for that information to be carried.
Well, there's other avenues. I mean, you've got government grants, you've got research grants. That's a lot of reason why we, most of the guys wouldn't even come on the show, because the credibility of going, of abductees. I've told you from day one. I go, I've never been abducted, so I don't know if it's real or not. Nor have I seen anything valid enough for me to believe that it actually is real.
But at the same time, you acknowledge the possibility.
I do acknowledge the possibility, because do I have proof that the 2004 encounter actually happened physically? I have zero physical proof that it happened. The only proof I have is the government says that it happened, which, we don't trust the government anyways. So, okay, we're going to trust them when they say it did happen. Of course, everybody is, because they want that to be true.
And that's why it's kind of the boy who cried wolf. They lie so many times, and they finally tell the truth, knowing we're not going to believe it. So it's hard. It is hard.
Yeah, and without people like Commander Fravor and Kevin Day and myself and the other guys that came out, they wouldn't have had the credibility. If the pilots hadn't said that it happened and went public.
And there are a lot of people coming out saying things, but there are a lot of people also coming out and saying things that aren't necessarily credible too, and we're believing them all the same. So and they don't get government support. They're on the same thing. But yes, us as the people entertaining it, buying their books, following these journeys and doing all these things, that comes from the fact that we know that there's something happening to us, or we're seeing things, and there's validation knowing that we're not the only one to see it. And we're all just trying to understand something that just might be normal. Because like I'm not seeing a threat is what I'm saying. So these abductions phenomenon is scary and it is dangerous when it happens. But there's also limited evidence to suggest whether or not it's happening physically or mentally. And if it's happening mentally, it doesn't mean they're insane. There's that psychological warfare that we need to look into, because there's also evidence of mind-altering mechanisms that are used in warfare.
But how do you prove that, though? I mean,
exactly. So what better way than to test it with the humans and drive them crazy in a position where they can't validate it? And
that's
then
why abductions get put on my
them.
shelf as the improvable right now. I just stick that on the improvable shelf.
But if you can prove that, then that's the key. The experiencers are the key to if we can prove it, and it's challenging to prove that with the nuts and bolts community, because we need the science and the facts in order to get the funding. And we also need that to get the credibility, because that's the current understanding of how we measure things.
Well, you're looking for your whale like we're looking for our whale. We're looking for the place that we can repeatedly study this. You got to find your person that's getting abducted repeatedly, that you can repeatedly catch it on film, on audio, and do multispectral analysis of the situation happening, radiation detection. I mean, you got to have that one special person that's going to get abducted no matter what's going on around them.
I need several special people, because what I do is I compare those people to each other, and that can be measurable. I cannot get their thoughts. Not everybody might have had a mental experience. Not everybody might have a mental illness. Not everybody might be drunk or intoxicated while they're giving their testimony, which doesn't mean they're not credible. It's just the circumstance of the event, and there's different tolerances. But what's in common is that all these people are in different places from all over the world, and they're drawing or describing the same thing, which means they're able to connect to the same place. And that's what we need to determine and perhaps the challenge that we're having is maybe we can't find it in this 3D physical world. Is it possible that these things exist interdimensionally?
Well, that's why they call it supernatural, man, because we can't prove it right now. Once it becomes provable, it's not supernatural anymore. It's just natural.
It's natural, exactly.
So until that point happens, it's really just a couple of guys talking about what could or could be. I mean, we've all done that with UAP, but when it comes down to it, until people like yourself and people like myself can make it from the supernatural to the natural, we got to the point where we're at least saying this is a natural phenomenon. That's the good thing about UAP studies, is that this is a natural phenomenon now. They don't consider it supernatural. This is, aliens isn't, or I should say, UAP isn't lumped completely in the category of supernatural anymore. So that's gone through
if labeled properly. So even the terms are getting used and misused.
No matter how you cut it, until you have nuts and bolts science, it's always going to be labeled supernatural. So until you get that one guy that has a breakthrough and that can measure, quantum consciousness or just consciousness, period, that's going to be a never-ending battle with both of our fields until we get tangible, real, solid evidence and a way of proving these things. Like, you can't prove a psionic attack. You can't prove a mental attack. You can't prove that somebody's consciousness is leaving their body, other than if they're completely brain dead. And even that just means that they went brain dead. Scientifically, it doesn't mean anything other than they went brain dead for a period of time. You decide that you're going to do, somebody says that they are astrally projecting themselves to a ship every night, right? And so you stick an EKG on them. You get them all up and they do their thing. But it just shows that they go flatlined or that they go into some hibernative state where they got crazy alpha, going on. It only proves that their body went into that state. It doesn't prove that their consciousness left their body. It just proves that they're sleeping or that they're unconscious. So that's what I'm saying is once we can film and prove that energy leaving the body and going somewhere, that's tangible. That's science. So you can do a scientific method for investigation and still only get empirical evidence. Empirical evidence doesn't prove anything other than there could be something to it, which is where we all started, even with UAPs. Now, through there being a lot of credible sightings for UAP, a lot of military involvement, a lot of governmental involvement, that's the only reason why we're as far as we are. The programs that have, like MK Ultra and a lot of these secret programs that they did, there's no tangible evidence that came out of those other than the fact that somebody says that they had good intel. That's what I mean by not worrying about whether the government's going to give you that information, and that's our approach with UAP, is to find that real tangible film, that real tangible evidence, and study it. And other than that, we can't do anything else. That hopefully will lead into other avenues through new propulsions, new technologies, because humans have this unique ability that once we know something is possible, then we seem to achieve those goals. Like if a scientist knows for a fact that something can be done because he witnessed it working, then he knows he's moving towards an achievable goal. And so I guess what I'm saying is, it's just, how do you really validate the intangible?
Well, what I'm trying to do that, and the way that I understand the challenges, and I understand all these pitfalls and stuff too. But the constant for me is identifying the method. So there's many different states of consciousness and restful states. So astral travel, and then out of body experience, and CE5s, and sleeping, meditation, remote viewing, all these other things. These are all different terms to describe the mind being used to see other things that aren't normally there. So what I'm trying to do is get enough data with these experiences to collect enough of what they're describing, enough data about what they're describing, to determine that what they're describing is normal enough, and then comparing and contrasting that with others, and then looking at them as individuals to see what they have in common, to see why these individuals are able to reach this place. And then once I have that data, then I can kind of understand, okay, there's a shared blood type, there's a shared race, there's a shared color, there's some biological coincidence between these individuals, and then I can start testing it. Okay, go to sleep, do all these other things, go to these places, tell me what you see, because these people are using different methods and reaching this place of consciousness in different ways, but describing and visualizing the same things. So they're either having a shared dream, or the mind is going somewhere and the same data is being retrieved, and they're interpreting it differently. And so it's harder. It's not impossible. It just requires a lot of human studying the people. Why are they the way that they are? Now, where that's useful is, say someone on your end has a photograph of this object in the sky. That's one piece of documented evidence, but yet I have witness testimony and experiential testimony and drawings and analytics and all this other stuff that draw and saw the same thing at different times. That gets compounded to reinforce the credibility of this one document, because it shows that there's more witnesses, because there's different types of evidence. And so on your scale, you need the hard, tangible stuff to measure in order to obtain your goals.
Yeah. The
other things that are still evidence is hard to build a case, because it's not accepted. But at the same time, my focus is not so much on what it is, it's how it's affecting our people.
Well, you get an uphill battle, because human testimony, or a person's testimony, means nothing in science whatsoever.
It means everything to them, and
to them, it means everything because it personally happened to them. You know, it's like my testimony about the Nimitz encounter. It means a lot to me because it happened to me. You know, that's why I don't invalidate these people. I just say that it's highly improbable that it's actually going on because I have zero tangible evidence to prove it to me. Where I, like I said earlier, I have zero tangible evidence to prove them that the Nimitz encounter happened. So I would literally not feel bad if somebody looked at me right in the face and says, "You're full of shit. It never happened." And I'm like, okay, doesn't bother me whatsoever. Not even in a little bit, because I can see it from that point of view. You know, and
that's an opinion, and it doesn't mean it's not true, and that's how you perceive it and how you take it. My fight in this race is just to make sure, or try to help when people are suffering from not having answers, to make sure that, you know, their quality of life improves, while at the same time relying on individuals like yourself and your team and other things like that to provide information that can be used and sourced to help provide answers to these people that believe that what they're happening is associated to this, because it's all a mess because of media and television, and Halloween is coming.
Well, it'll make it a lot easier if we prove UFOs are real. You know, and that's one step in the
proving them real, but identifying extraterrestrial origin or government origin. If it's government origin, it closes the box. But if it's extraterrestrial origin,
doesn't mean that they aren't abducting people.
I know, but I mean, there's a lot of layers to unpack, which makes it, you know, when you look at the government perspective, put yourself in their shoes. If their goal is to tell us that it's true, there's a lot of things that need to be in place first before they do that, and there's a lot that comes with that, because they're going to have to explain everything. Yeah, aliens exist, but ghosts don't. Bigfoot doesn't. No, they're going to have, or maybe they do. Like, I lump it
all in the same category. Stuff that I've never experienced.
Yeah, so they're going to have to explain a lot of things. It's easier for them to say it doesn't exist as long as they can contain it. And if they can contain it, then it's A, it's not a threat, we don't have to worry about it, or B, they have control of it, or C, they're working with it. And either way, we don't have to worry about it. We just need to trust that they have it handled until they don't have it handled. And then we all of a sudden, we're dealing with it.
I do honestly say that I openly invite anybody to make me an experiencer by proving these things to me, because some people they go on. I see people all the time, people like Greer, people saying, CE5 groups, within 5 sessions you'll see something, and then and it's like, all right,
and that's group thought.
I go, does it matter what my mindset is? Because my mindset, I do meditation, and I have done serious meditation, and I haven't been into it as much in the past few years, but in the past I'd done meditation so deep that, in my mind I can create worlds, and not be here, but I'm in my mind. It's just, I'm somewhere else in my mind. It's not external from me. It's just something I created in my mind, a vault that's in my mind. There's nothing paranormal about it. I'm walking across a desert, or I'm sitting in the most tranquil place in the entire world. I've achieved that kind of meditation before, which is why it's hard for me to believe that a lot of this may not be external at all, or it's hard for me not to believe that it's just internal. Like, these are people that have gotten to either are able to get into this such deep internal place where they can literally just whatever goes wild in their mind, they can create these places like they're just there. I mean, we've all had those dreams that are so real that you could swear. I mean, who knows? That might be just another life another parallel life that you just slipped into for a couple hours while you're sleeping. But
it could also be the real life. This could be the dream.
It very well could be. I mean, but a long time ago, I got out of philosophy because it will make you crazy, and and I just accept the reality for what it is at this point, and just keep moving along. And then when things change, it doesn't break my perception of reality. It just changes what reality is for me. So, like, when I'm going all the way up to the 2004 event, UFOs were in movies. They weren't real. Then the 2004 event happened. Now UFOs are real. Do I know anything other than the actual information I knew? No. But beyond Mach 5 travel, beyond Mach 25 travel is possible. Traveling without wings or propellers is possible. Traveling through in an object that doesn't appear to have any engine is now possible. These things are all now possible for me in my universe.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it changes every time I have a new experience.
And then the question is now are they aware of it, and who has the tech and who's responsible for it? And it's all secret because they want to be able to use it when they need to use it. But then at the same time,
that's a hard secret to keep, though.
They have to practice it. They need to let some people in it to use it. That's why I think with the Catalina event, being in the open space and like in the water, where most people aren't, it's a good testing area. But
I wouldn't doubt that they would test against us too if it was U.S. tech. They
need to test it somewhere, and then someone snaps a video and releases it when they're not supposed to, even though they're told not to. Like, that happens all the time. It's a complete normal thing, because if it is secret tech, then they have to use it secretly somewhere to have it used, and they have to let certain people know. But then we're people too. So you piss off that person tells somebody.
Then I still have a serious question for everybody that's an experiencer or everybody that's an abductee. If it had never happened to you, how would you feel about it?
Yeah.
And that's just it. It's hard for them because whatever's happening to them is happening to them. And whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's actual reality, you have to step back and ask them that question. Would you believe if you spoke to yourself before this happened? And I can honestly tell you, believe me, I would not believe me. I'd be like, dude, good story. You almost had me. Good one,
it's kind of funny because like my experience, it's not UFO related, it's not paranormal related, it's a consciousness related. This is why I'm kind of, that's why I have my belief that it's possible, because I don't know where I intercepted this image here that's on my shirt. There's a bit of me trying to understand where this information came from, with a human origin, of course, is where I'm always thinking. But my current theory, sorry to interrupt, just my current theory.
You're good. I interrupted you, so you're good.
My current theory, onto your point, is that it could have been myself from the future trying to communicate with myself in the present, which is why I'm trying to wonder why it makes sense, why I'm able to understand some of these things. And to my present self, before my experience, like I was dumb. I did not understand consciousness. I did not understand dimensions. I did not understand the connection with people. So I needed to have that experience in order to broaden my my horizon. But I mean, at the same time, I'm trying not to be crazy either.
Nobody wants to be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, some of us are. I've come to grips with my crazy. But the other thing that I don't know, have you ever thought about genetic memory as a way of thinking about where some of this information comes from? Because my thought that the genetic memory might be an actual thing was because of the lineage of tradesmen that happened throughout history. So you have these great tradesmen, and then their kid, one or many of their kids end up being just as good, or have these natural raw talents and things. And then, I mean, everybody's had that one thing that they started to do, and it just naturally could do it without any real effort. It's like when I went through grade school, I could read the textbooks, have a working knowledge, and I didn't need to study. It was easy. That stopped at a certain point, but it just, I think that genetic memory definitely plays a role in especially subconscious levels for people. I don't know if that could have a role in like pulling up like images like what you're talking about.
Well, I do believe in genetic memory, and we were talking about conditioning earlier with movies. Is kind of a good point. There's also conditioning in video games. So Assassin's Creed is a game, a series that I follow quite a bit, and I'm always playing it because it's very in depth with the history. But in every single game, it's a tether between present time and past time. But what they're doing is they're they're trying to find the apple of Eden, which is the source from the Garden of Eden, this technology, the secret technology that existed back then. But every single game is you're following the lineage of an individual, and they go into the system, and through genetic memory in the present, some ancestor is able to access the memories of their ancestor to trace where this sacred object
the quantum
is.
leap effect.
Yeah, so that way they know where it is presently. And again, video games and all that other stuff too, but that the concept of that, and I think with hypnosis, when we go back and regression, and we look into our minds and things like that, it's very, very possible, but yet we can't prove it. It's not tangible.
Well, the hypnosis, the only, I thought about doing like a regression therapy at some point, but then if something goes wrong and somebody puts an impression into your brain that, it's like, if you get the wrong person, you could be screwed for life. And so I just chose not to do that due to the factors that, unless I knew that person for the last 30 years of my life, I don't want somebody messing with my consciousness.
And once you unlock it, you got to have the supports ready to deal with wherever you send the memory
That's
back.
if you can believe it, though, because I've seen probably about 30 or 40 regressions therapy sessions that I was cringing because they were literally leading these people into these conclusions through hypnotic suggestion, and it's like you can't have those pointed questions. You can't. But then again, I've seen some that were absolutely great that scared the hell out of me, where they didn't suggest anything at all in any way, shape, or form. They just walked them through events without being, without trying to foreshadow or lead them into a conclusion. So it's like a mixed bag with that one. And like you said before, you start getting that intangibles thing moment again. But
it's also it's not just what you're trying to prove, it's who you're trying to prove it to.
Yeah.
So with your team and the work that you're doing, I guess, are you proving it for yourselves? Are you proving it for the world? Like
I'm trying to change the world.
Yeah. It makes it harder.
I have a team of people. Some people don't like me. Some people don't like McGowan. Some people, nobody has a problem with our scientists because they literally aren't on social media. They're the smart ones.
They're the smart ones.
Ironically, right? But honestly, I don't really see a use for social media anymore. I'm rarely on there now. I probably check it once a day at this point, if at all.
There's lots of ways to interact with the people. If you're going to go and meet the people and go to meetings and go to places and see these people and share your knowledge, then social media is not needed. It's where the people are too. Yeah.
Our work's not real relevant to it because it's not instant gratification. It's long, tedious work that's going to take decades, and
Okay, so let's talk about your team. So how does one become part of your team, or how do you determine that a position is there and needs to be filled, and how do you
be dead honest with you, due to problems we've had with manning in the past? Obviously we're an all volunteer organization. Every person that is in the company now literally basically works a third job, which is UAPx, for absolutely free. And none of us get paid. There are no salaries. The money that we do get goes towards equipment. As running your podcast, there's software costs. There's, we have accounting software. We have platform that we run, so we all work remotely. That all requires money. So that's what we use any money that we get for. We have to research, we have to plan, and a lot of this stuff ends up coming out of pocket for us. We've put way more into this than we've ever received. So it's at this point, it's diminishing returns, and we run on a no debt policy. So we won't do something until we can afford it. And so that also slows everything down too. So
I'm just gonna just remind everybody too, because also on your website, being a non-for-profit, you can support the mission here.
Yep. And anybody that does want to do private donations that require a receipt, you can email me through the website, or go right through to my link tree and email me, and we can arrange private donations too. Because I know, you never know who's listening, and if somebody needs that tax write-off for next year, come and donate.
Yeah, it's a yeah. Well, that's a whole thing on its own. But you want to hope to get enough investors that are. I mean, that's validation too.
We don't do investors though, because investors would require some type of
percentage back,
or so we go by donation only, and we don't want somebody to be able to just buy their way into the company, and that's a big thing for us, is that we want to stay in control and keep it pure, but still grow at the same time. So it poses its own problems that we deal with on a daily, but my team does a really good job. Yeah, I mean, I am literally not CEO material. I hate to admit it, but I might be able to plop on the ground and lead a team on how to repair a piece of equipment, put together on the ground stuff like that. I'm great at that, but I tell you what, I'm learning a lot about having to be a CEO.
I can relate to that. Today was a day of all days, owning two companies and things like that. And sometimes I forget what it's like to be a CEO when you have to be a CEO. And I do miss putting boots on the ground and doing the field work, because that is what I'm good at. When you become a boss, you don't know anything about being a boss, but you need to, but you're.
Well, that's the one thing that I really thank Jeremy for. Jeremy has a lot of experience running companies. He ran his own company in South America for a number of years. He's had a lot of experience in technical writing. He knows a lot about the aspects of running a business. And I tell you what, I make his life hell. Oh, I make his life hell. He tries and tries and tries. We put out an article just recently, and I looked up a definition for something, and I wrote it pretty much almost word for word, and I didn't cite where I got that information from, because I don't do writing like that ever. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's generic information. To me, that's just generic information you can find anywhere, from Encyclopedia Britannica. But when you're doing any type of
knowledge,
what I would consider common knowledge, but when you deal with the individuals through the world, and I had to learn that lesson.
Well, it depends on who your audience is that you're marketing to. So if you're marketing to, or presenting to, let's say marketing, but presenting to an academic audience, they've gone to school and paid lots of money, and they've been, and in order to pass, they have to meet those marks. So those are the ones picking on us because it's hard for them. And why is it so easy for us to come along? And there's a bit of an ego thing there. But who cares if you cited it properly? Was the information in the article right, or useful, or valid? And a lot of people will just find that one thing that's wrong, and then all of a sudden there's like 4 YouTube channels talking about it. And then it's you could take that energy and just like put that into,
why did you just read the damn article and agree with it or disagree with it?
Yeah, just shift a little bit. You put the time and the effort and all that. Who hurt you? Who hurt you?
Oh man,
what's going on?
It's like where for me, I read it, I get a little irritated by it, and then I drop it, and I just, and then it's done, and then I just kind of think to myself, I'm like, man, I don't understand why there's so much that hate is so strong there, and
it comes down to validation, and everyone is trying to get answers for the same questions that we have. We're all affected by this phenomenon. We all don't have support from our governments. We all aren't getting funded. We're all trying our best to do so. And the issue is not a lot of us understand the unity or the concept of working together. So
Well,
the
the one
fact
thing,
is even though you said it's hard being a CEO, you have people that are following you and they're still there. As difficult and challenging as it is, you have people behind you.
at least for now.
You know, and you know, so you're doing good enough in that respect. It's hard. This job at the top is
Well, without
underappreciated.
them,
Yeah.
I don't have UAPx. UAPx,
Well,
you know, if it came back down to just me again, you know, I would definitely never stop rebuilding. But the guys that I got around me with, you know, Matthew, Kevin, Cecilia, Ben, Jeremy, Jason, I mean, without those guys, there is no UAPx. You know, they're the heart and soul of it.
and that's why you're the boss, because you know, you are only as good as your team. I'm only as good as my team. Right? I didn't set this up.
Speaking of
My
that,
team set this
let's
up.
go with something a little bit more positive. That
Yeah.
production value. Oh, so year from now to now, wow, dude, that's you've really upped your game on that.
On what? Oh, sorry, the commercial?
Your intro. I tell you what, your intro. Please
Okay.
tell me that was inspired by Solar Babies.
Solar Babies? No. What's Solar Babies?
Oh, so I think it was either 70s or 80s. There was like a B movie called Solar Babies, where these guys find this glowing orb, and they're like roller skating around, and the whole premise is they're trying to save this glowing alien orb, and that intro just reminded me of that movie. Like, boom.
So the outro, which we'll play in about 6 minutes here, is like the last half of the same thing, but it was inspired by the time that I spent with the looking into Tartaria and this mud flood kind of conspiracies and power bases and things like that too. So a bunch of subliminal reset kind of stuff. So that's where it kind of inspired from, is to kind of show all of these images over time where history was so advanced, and then it got destroyed, and then here we are trying to come out of it again. But the moon was kind of the focal point for that. I don't know. I don't really remember making it. It's like another one of those like kind of
inspired thing.
Yeah. This is it.
Yeah, you have to check that movie out. You'll see why it reminded me of it.
I'm gonna write it down. Space Babies? Is that what it's called?
I think it's called Solar Babies.
Or Solar Babies, Space Babies.
It's about a bunch of kids in an internment camp. It's like a dystopian future type of flick.
That's cool. And so on that point, that's part of the Experiencer Support Association. Like, not only like there's the research that we do, but I mean, if you ever need help getting the message out, you know, like there's things like this we could help create for you and your team too. If you wanted to expand, I know you're pretty private and you don't focus on your marketing and media stuff, but you know, if you ever decide you need it, I definitely support your mission. We don't normally have reoccurring guests, and the whole, you know, reason why I approved it is because I know I trust the work. You're always tuning in and doing your stuff. I talked to Jeremy quite a lot, and now he's finally come out and told everybody he's a Mason, which was a secret for a while. So, and it's good for him coming out and being more honest about that.
Well, if you want to be a Mason, ask a Mason. That's the saying.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following you guys for a while too, so you guys have evolved as well. And seeing you guys on Skinwalker Ranch, not seeing it, but knowing that you guys have done it, that's an achievement. You know, and there's so many people that want to have that aim to have that. And you
those guys over there are great guys too, by the way. You know, and just like, you know, off camera, out of the public. I mean, every one of those dudes, you know, they're just damn good people. You know, me and Jason both got on really well with those guys, and you know, I wish them all the best, and you know, I hope that, you know, 16 more seasons for those guys. You know,
Is there any talk of you guys returning, or was it just a one?
It's been on and off talk here and there. Nothing firm. Nothing in stone. Maybe in the future, but like I said, we're not real focused on the media aspect right now. We're really just trying to get the development of the Druid system up and running, and start getting our ground zero set up, because we found a spot that doesn't literally seem to have anything going on whatsoever, and we really want to use that as our baseline. So we want to set up a UFO system there, start monitoring, really refine our techniques for data collection, and keep moving along in that trajectory to have a couple of, we'll have that location as our our status quo. This is what's normal, and then when we go to a second location that's supposed to be a hot spot, then we'll have a good idea of the compare and contrast between the two locations to see what's going on. And for all we know, all of a sudden if we hit the nail on the head, we could just start seeing crazy stuff in every location. I got a sneaking suspicion there's a lot more going on than we know about. So,
and it's establishing the pattern. We all have the capabilities. Some of us have the means, some of us don't. But there's also, I think the goodies are in places we're unable to get to. We're also restricted in where we can be. So if you have the ability to go to some places and do your studies and build camp and collect evidence, and it's not in a restricted area,
yeah.
How long do you think until when that comes public that place becomes restricted?
Well, it's just it. If it's an entire area, how can you restrict an entire area? Plus, a lot of the places we're trying to look at are private property. That's the lynch key right there. Is finding private property that'll let you set up.
Which is exactly what Skinwalker Ranch is.
The problem with Skinwalker Ranch is that if, should we go, we have no problem helping them with their science. We would even set up something there to help them with theirs. But, it is a private endeavor, so it would be all on whether the owners of the data, because we wouldn't own the data on that property. That would be something that would have to be compromised. So we'd have to come up with some type of data sharing agreement. But I don't think that would happen just because of, they've got to protect their own assets too. They have their own ongoing research that costs money. They've got to protect their own assets.
Well, they also got to follow the guidelines of the TV crew, the History Channel that's funding it.
Well, they handle their own guidelines. Honestly, The TV crew does a fly on the wall filming based off of what they do. They have influence in the fact that, say they have a guest on that they don't particularly agree with, that guest may be there for publicity. So somebody might be able to come on the ranch that they don't particularly want on the ranch, but that's about as far as it goes. They don't dictate what experiments they do. They don't dictate what science they do, other than produce the show itself and the content. That's it. That's all they do.
Which is good, because from the episodes I did see, because I've seen every episode up to the end of season 2. I just haven't got into season 3 yet. So and that's what I appreciated, that. And to come back to the trailer that I saw for Tearing the Sky, is the emphasis and the focus on the data and the research. And